Alrighty, how's it going, and welcome back to another video. Jonathan here with Boston Collectors, and today we have R2-D2 as seen in the Attack of the Clones. I'll let the box segment play as I preface you all with what to expect. I spent a substantial amount of time researching all of the pieces which came from the visual dictionaries published by Lucasfilm over the years. Some of the names aren't canon anymore, but it'll serve as a starting point. There are other sources as well, and everything will be identified and sourced throughout the review for you to locate at your leisure. Astromechs are modifiable units to fit specific needs, so everything's got a purpose, even if you don't use all of the items included. Summarizing the box segment, R2-D2 is part of the anniversary release, which is why his packaging is as ornate as it is. If you're new to the hobby, this isn't a standard art box that we usually receive. It's a lot more streamlined and easier to store than what we have here today. It's a cool design overall, and I personally like seeing what the art team come up with for the individual characters that they typically do these for. However, we know why we're here, so let's begin. You can support us by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, click the join button for member-exclusive content that can't be seen anywhere else. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin. Today we've enlisted some help from the Republic to help get us through the accessories. A lot of these pieces are smaller, so it works out. There are multiple compartments that can be opened via magnet, although some are easier than others. Mine, for example, will require a little extra help on the left compartment, whereas the right, even more. Today we're going in order of accessories as they're presented in the tray. Kicking things off, we have the buzzsaw. This piece truly is serrated, and the saw itself is made of real metal. I like that Hot Toys went the extra step in doing so, but it may or may not have had an effect on the final price point. Hot Toys recommended slotting this piece in the bottom socket, but it can go anywhere a socket exists, which is 3 locations in all. Next, we have the lubricant application arm, as seen in the 1998 Visual Dictionary. This accessory is retractable and features a metal rod, which allow you to extend it, but only so far. In the event that you get a little curious, don't fret like our friend here. Simply slot the piece back in and you're good. Hot Toys recommended magnetizing the accessory in this location, but Astromechs are customizable per owner. You can put this anywhere you choose. All in all, it's a cool piece with phenomenal detail. Moving on, we have the Lifeform Scanner. While there isn't an extendable function to this piece, the Life Scan dish is made of metal with smaller grooves for added depth. At the top of R2, this piece is simply slotted to fit and doesn't feature a magnetic function. As for this accessory, a Star Wars illustrator by the name of Chris Reef called it a welder gun. For those of you who went to Star Wars Celebration back in 2016, this artist had a limited run of 250 art prints titled The Gadgets of R2-D2. It's a print where a lot of these accessories can be seen. Moving on, we have the mechanical grasping arm as seen in the 1998 Visual Dictionary. While I did mention a lot of the pieces with a die-cast rod are extendable, the same goes for the arm featuring a golden plastic rod. It isn't as easy to manipulate, but it is an option. We aren't out of the 1998 Visual Dictionary just yet, because they identified this as the computer interface arm. Again, featuring an extensible piece due to the golden rod. Now, this one is an interesting piece because its use changed throughout Star Wars on a few occasions. In the Phantom Menace Visual Dictionary, this was called a repair arm, which sealed, cut, and cleaned electronic components. However, in The Force Awakens, it was considered a data probe. Since the Phantom Menace is closer to the Attack of the Clones, we'll call it a repair arm for now. And next, we have the multifunction arm, as seen and named on Chris Reeve's 2016 Star Wars Celebration art print. This is another piece featuring a die-cast rod, making it easier to retract than those painted in gold. As for this next accessory, the Scomp Link is widely used in the Star Wars universe for multiple droids, and even Echo from the Bad Batch, who's technically part droid. Getting back on topic, even though it isn't shown in the directions, this piece can extend. It's seen throughout films and shows, so it's only right to have it function that way. Unfortunately though, the magnetic feature won't allow you to store the piece laying down inside of the unit, but it works as intended otherwise. Now, this is another accessory with multiple names. On the Star Wars fandom page, it's identified as an arc welder, which was used for repairs and cutting into objects. In the Visual Dictionary from 1998 and Chris Reeve's 2016 The Gadgets of R2-D2, they both named it a power charge arm. This allowed R2 to recharge dead machinery or pulse electricity through damaged circuits. It's pegged into the port above the buzzsaw and doesn't feature an extendable rod. Moving on, we have a pair of computer interfacing arms as seen in the Visual Dictionary for the Revenge of the Sith. However, they're also named as rod arms on the Gadgets of R2-D2 by Chris Reeve. Both are magnetized inside of the compartments of R2's dome, and not to mention featuring articulated joints. For the next attachable piece to this figure, we have the magnetic grapple, as named in Chris Reeve's Gadgets of R2-D2. This piece isn't magnetized to R2, but instead it's pegged into a smaller hole behind him. I'm sure you all know what this is used for, but hang tight. We'll show you in a moment. Inside of R2's dome, you can find a periscope which is retractable by a pressing spring function. It features a swivel at the base, which could add a small sense of variety to your display. Now, in the Clone Wars, this functionality is one panel to the left. However, in the Return of the Jedi, it's featured in this location. My guess is Hot Toys didn't exactly want to reinvent the wheel if they didn't have to. If you'd like him to stand in for your original trilogy display, this feature could aid in that. And for the final pieces that are attachable to R2-D2, we have a pair of booster rockets, as noted in the Gadgets of R2-D2 by Chris Reeve. And to keep the continuity alive, Hot Toys added an additional pair of accessories to complete the actuating coupler's appearance. First, we'll need to remove the actuating couplers on both sides. After that, the booster rockets simply peg into R2-D2 without any hassle. Out of the box though, these are pre-equipped with the booster effects attached. But you obviously don't need them if you don't want to use them. We also have a remote included for features we'll discuss later on, so hang tight. For now, I'm just excited to talk about this base. I love the smoke effects which appear to billow from the sides of the rocket effects. The nameplate at the base of it, which, we really don't need it, but it's a standard, right? Get me out. We could have got something else, even if they did stick us with this, but we didn't. Anyway, this piece is pretty cool to have though. A small sneak peek as to what's to come with the Attack of the Clones C-3PO. The detail and paint application is amazing. Now, this isn't die-cast, but it does a phenomenal job at appearing as such. The light-up feature, in my opinion, is also pretty solid. On the side of the faceplate, you'll find the battery compartment. Both eyes are lit by one bulb, but you can't tell, unlike the Dark Troopers. On the faceplate, the inside is white, which will help the light bounce better and also help with illuminating the eyes. And after flipping the switch, C-3PO comes to life. As mentioned earlier, the magnetic grapple is used for C-3PO, if you'd like to use it. The magnet only works in this location though. Now that we're finally done with all of the accessories, if you'd like to use them all, this is how it'd come out. More than likely I'll never use any of these, but I appreciate Hot Toys including them all. This is my first R2-D2 unit, so I enjoy just marveling at all of the detail work found throughout the piece. You'd think Hot Toys might skip on a lot of these tinier details, but they didn't, which I found surprising. The dirty wash over the greeblies also give it a unique worn look to the unit. The holo projectors found around the die-cast dome are slightly articulated. Some more so than others, but again, it allows you to have somewhat of a different look to your R2 versus the next collector. In order to power on the light and sound features, you'll have to extract R2's dome from his body. Beneath it, you'll find an on and off switch in the battery compartment where the included batteries can be installed. As for the remote mentioned in the previous segment, it's utilizing an infrared feature which will require you to aim the remote at R2's primary photoreceptor, or his eye. The R letter in Star will control the light up feature, whereas the W in Wars will control the sound. After switching the button on both units on and placing the dome on the body, this is where the fun begins. Unfortunately though, there are only 2 light up functions. On the first button press, all of R2's holo projectors will come on. On the second press, the holo projectors remain, but the diagnostic display and indicator lights are also turned on. I love this feature, but I wish there were more variety to it that would allow me to have strictly the status display light, for example. Don't get me wrong, it's really cool, but you're asking to kill the batteries simply by having all of these lights on. Or if you're looking to throw R2 in a junk pile powered down, you can do that too. Beneath the unit, there's a retractable center tread that can articulate. And beneath all 3 legs, there are wheels which completes the R2 movement. Feel free to roll them around if that makes you happy. Overall, it's a cool droid and I'm glad to have him. I just wish there were a few more features is all. Before we begin, I'd suggest lowering your sound slightly. These are recorded using a high-quality microphone and will sound as if it's in your hand. If you don't care to hear all of the 14 sound bites, feel free to move on to the closing segment by using the chapters below. In closing, for $270, When I pre-ordered this little guy, I felt a little robbed. Yes, the dome is quite heavy due to being die-cast, and the detail work is phenomenal. The lights are bright and the sound effects are cool, but am I missing something? I'm guessing the die-cast and electronic components equal Fennec Shan, Casca Reeves, Reva, the Grand Inquisitor. Anyway, while I am happy to have an R2 on my display, if times were different, I'd have tried waiting out for a discount. However, this little guy is waitlisted, and I haven't heard of any conversions for him lately. It doesn't make it less of a stick-up for my money, but I guess it is what it is. With that said, I'm rating the overall experience, with everything included, at an 8 out of 10. I think $240 would have been reasonable, but I'm just a consumer. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. This is Jonathan with Boston Collectors, and as always, it doesn't matter what we rate the figure. If you like it, we love it. See you next time.